Ciarán. And I think it is an important point. And you know, when we're talking about housing, we're talking about homes, people's homes. And we're also talking about homes and the provision of homes and the state taking a lead in the provision of homes, social and affordable homes for our citizens. And we're doing so in the context of a crisis, coming out of a decade of undersupply of housing. And we are doing it in the context of COVID, where there has been a complete shutdown of construction. And to amplify that problem, there has been a displacement as well of a lot of our population outside of the urban centres. So the housing crisis has only intensified. And when we say that leasing is bad value, let me say two things. And I speak as somebody who spent their time on a local authority, who has spent time supporting people, helping them to avoid homelessness for more than 15 years. Local authorities did not have the tools to provide affordable housing, did not have the tools to provide 100% public housing on public land. This legislation and the affordable housing legislation is changing that. And will change it not for the next 5 years or 25 years, but will change it for generations to come. And there will be public houses built on public land, and they will be there, hopefully, in 100 years and more. But in the here and now of today, in my constituency, where we provide more than 70% of all of the emergency homeless accommodation in Dublin, the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive will pay twice as much for what I consider to be substandard emergency accommodation in comparison to what they will pay for a 25-year lease on a brand new A-energy rated purpose-built home. In a crisis, in a human crisis, I think it would be negligent and abusive of any of us to say to the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive or to say to Dublin City Council, don't lease those homes. Leave those people in that substandard emergency accommodation. Don't let them move on with their lives. Traumatise them and their children. Because guess what? We have a principle of not leasing homes. That's what is being suggested here. And I, for one, will not stand over that. Gurmagat.
Minister, can I ask you to come in?
Thank you. Look, I know I'll just deal with the amendments that are here in front of me firstly, and just to say that the you know what we're looking at doing here, just to remind senators, is to use land that's effectively lying idle right now. So when we talk about new communities or regeneration, we're not excluding anyone. Some of these are old industrial units, old hospitals, like in Dundrum. It's actually about creating new communities in many instances. So look, the amendments that are tabled specifically, 9, 10 and 16, which seek to amend Section 2 to include references to vibrant, sustainable, mixed-income communities, or by changing references to social background, is currently drafted. Section 2C provides that one of the purposes of the Act is, and I quote, to counteract segregation in housing between persons of different social backgrounds. Section 2N also provides that a purpose of the Act is to, and I quote, facilitate measures designed to achieve socially integrated housing. Very, very clear, I think very strong provisions that are there. I'm opposing the amendments as I really do believe it's adequately covered already. And the amendments don't substantially change anything. I think we all want the same thing. It's covered in the bill. For those of us who want the LDA to actually deliver and build homes, that's what we want. So we can all recognise the importance of greater integration in housing, delivery of mixed tenure, affordable, social, public housing and public land, like we're doing it. This, when you look at the original general scheme of the previous LDA bill, we've moved this so far forward now that it's focused on delivering social and affordable homes, mixed tenure as well, and that's key to building sustainable communities. And it really is. It's vital that the state uses its land to provide affordable homes for purchase and rent, as well as social housing, using, as Senator Cummins said, all the means at our disposal. We have to. We can't. We're in a crisis situation still. Like, we'll deliver maybe 20,000 homes this year, public and private. We need to be building 33,000. We need to build 33,000 last year. We built 20,000. So there's already 26,000 homes not built that should have been built because of COVID. That's the situation we're in now. So we can't have debates back and forth. Now, that's saying that in a debating chamber is another thing. But I just think we need to get on with it now. Like, we've an affordable housing bill that has just passed, thankfully, without any dissent within this House, and passed 101 votes to 8 in the Dáil. That really gives us the tools to deliver affordable housing and cost rental at scale. And now we've an opportunity through the Land Development Agency to make sure that the state uses its own land properly for the good of everyone. Like, what can be wrong with that? So I think most people will agree that that's where we should be at. Some don't respect that position, but they've got to be really clear. So when there are parties who say, and I'm not making a particular political point to cause any difficulties, but that we want a land development agency, but we don't want it to build homes, and we don't want it to plan for homes, I can't agree with that. We need an agency that's going to partner, yes, with this awful thing, which is called, in some instances, the private sector. You know, that's going to happen, and it will, and it'll deliver homes for people and for families, and will deliver more public homes than have ever been delivered before. So these are good things, and I know, to be fair, all senators recognise the fact, and all senators want that to happen. Those amendments 9, 10, 16 can't accept them. Amendment 11 seeks to amend section 2D by inserting the word existing after new. The subsection already provides for sustainable development of new and regenerated communities. I think what we're referring to there is when the state will have lands that were never, there was never housing on. So I'm not talking about gentrification of areas or in that way. We're talking about bringing lands that may have been industrial lands, that may have been commercial lands, back into use for housing to bring about regenerated communities. So I don't believe this amendment adds in any way or adds significantly to the provision. So I won't be accepting 11. Amendment 17, the section provides for the establishment of appropriate mechanisms and structures between public and private bodies to develop relevant public land owned by the agency, and lands that's privately owned in some instances as well, where it'll bring that in, identified as suitable for strategic and timely delivery of housing. So I'm opposing that amendment, because really what it would do would be to shut off one avenue completely. With this discussion in the Dáil as well, where we got to a stage on elements of the affordable bill as well, where it was very clear that any type of private finance is never going to be accepted, that it would simply be exchequer monies. Now, that's not sustainable. I think we need both. The state needs to lead. We're the biggest investor in housing. We're the biggest builder, and rightly so. And the state will be, and will do that. But it is necessary and wholly appropriate for the LDA to partner where appropriate. It's established on a commercial basis in line with other commercial state bodies, and it'll allow them to enter into commercial arrangements where appropriate. The LDA, in its role as a development agency, would work with other public and private sector landholders to develop larger sites for the provision of housing and regeneration of communities, like what happens in many other countries. They don't just say, well, that's public land, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to take, so we got to be very clear that while these provisions are fully appropriate, I'd remind senators that the LDA, and what is important, because I know the point that some concerns have been raised about, which I don't share, but I understand them. The LDA will remain in the ownership of the state, and with the Minister for Housing and the Minister for Public Expenditure Reform as its only shareholders. It's a public body. There's no provision for any other shareholders, and in addition, all dividends will be returned for the benefit of the Exchequer. Amendment 30, which I think is the last one, and by the way, ministerial approval would be required for the establishment of any subsidiaries as well that the LDA would have, and there's significant oversight. The LDA would be fully accountable to the JOC as well, and anything it does. Amendment 30 seeks to amend section 14 by facilitate the provision of housing with the public good with delivery of social and affordable housing. I think we're kind of talking around this, because this is what we're doing. So again, I just don't feel that that's necessary. The housing will of course be for the public good, and that's what we want to make sure that it is. So it'll be social, it'll be affordable. It's clear from the bill that the LDA will be delivering affordable housing and public housing and social housing on public land. So I won't be accepting any of the amendments that have been tabled, but I thank the senators for doing so anyway, because it allows us to have this discussion around the important elements of housing delivery through the